Coming up on today's Next Fan Up podcast.
The thing I love about those guys is that, they know we're not finished. The whole team knows, we on go time. We still on go. So just know that we are not slowing down. That's our mentality in the locker room.
That's right, Chase Young. The Washington football team isn't done, nor is the Next Fan Up podcast. It's Super Wildcard Weekend. Here we go.
That's how we start.
Yeah, baby.
32 super fans.
Where do the reports come from? Did you get an initial?
One PodVader.
That's football.
Every angle of the NFL covered.
All that kind of stuff, I get it.
This,
no question about it,
is Next Fan Up.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
Hello and welcome to the NFL Soundoff edition of the Next Fan Up podcast. Hey, everybody. PodVader here, along with Eagles James. Hello, James.
Hey, Pod. It's crazy weekend.
Week 17 was a crazy one, and we're going to be playing some of the sound from some of the players and coaches after their games from Week 17. Some of them moving on to Super Wildcard Weekend, some of them with a bye, some of them with their seasons coming to an end and already looking ahead to the off season. We'll be getting into all of that. We'd love to hear from you. nextfanup@gmail.com. You can tweet us at NFU Podcast. Facebook.com/NFU Podcast is another great way to keep the conversation going. We're going to be talking about all of these things as we move forward. We are going to, coming up on Thursday, we're going to be doing our Thursday preview podcast, as we always do. We'll preview all the playoff games first, and then we'll get into some of the off-season news for the non-playoff teams in the second half of the Thursday show. But one of the things we're going to be talking about during that Thursday show is the arrow pointing up, down, or sideways for a lot of these organizations. Because I think there is definitely a difference between some of the teams that are out there. And this first piece of sound is specifically for my friend here to give him a chance to go off on his favorite team. I have no Patriots sound in this week's episode, not because there wasn't any good sound.
Shocker.
Although there wasn't any good sound, but because I did my rant on the Patriots on the Thursday preview show last week. If you want to check that out, go anywhere podcasts are heard. The archive is there. The Week 17 preview. You can go to the time code for the 5 irrelevant games. I believe the Patriots were the second of the 5 irrelevant games that we previewed on that Thursday. I went off on the Patriots. My whole thing, just to summarize, was they didn't rip the Band-Aid off soon enough. They sort of half-assed the rebuild, which delayed the greatness returning by another year, which is really disappointing because the arrow is definitely pointing down on my organization. Unlike the Bengals, and we're going to hear from Zac Taylor a little bit later, the arrow is pointed up. I'll be curious to see where the arrow is pointing for my friend here, talking about the Eagles. But honestly, even in the offseason, the things that the Eagles say end up falling on deaf ears. Here's Howie Roseman and Doug Pederson talking to the press, maybe?
Les and then Bo.
Howie and or Doug, I understand what you said about Carson Wentz and your feelings about him. But as you know, you have a report from a pretty credible reporter that Carson Wentz wants to be traded. How are you going to address that? How have you addressed it? Have you talked to Carson? Have you talked to his representatives? Does this concern you?
Do you have a preference there, Les? When you put it out there, we both may stay silent.
Well, either one of you can go first. It doesn't matter. I'm easy on that.
Les, I'll just say this, that my confidence in my ability, my confidence in Carson Wentz and our relationship, hasn't wavered. And my job is to get it right. My job is to fix it. And we're not satisfied with where we are right now currently. And we all have to take ownership in our jobs. Can you hear me, Les? Can they hear me?
Yes.
All right, I just saw him talking, so I didn't know if he heard me or not.
We're working on getting Coach's audio. Howie, do you want to start with that, and then we'll we'll bring it back to Doug.
Did they hear any parts of Doug's answer?
Nope.
Awesome.
Less and then Bo.
By the way, that was like a half an hour into the press conference. That they still couldn't get the audio right. It's week 17, and you haven't figured out how to do the Zoom call yet. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the first time that they had them both on at the same time, so let's start there. And this is the annual end-of-year press conference where they both address the media. And typically, non-COVID situation, they'd be at a table side by side fielding questions. In this situation, there looks to be in separate rooms on the same Zoom call, and audio text just couldn't get it right. But let me start with the question that was asked as far as Carson Wentz, because I ended up watching this yesterday, both live and then rewatched it again to see if there was anything I missed. And they've pretty much been lockstep with, the deal with Carson Wentz, and that, all the rumors and everything that's floating out there, even with that credible source from ESPN, mind you, is who they're referring to. You can take a guess on who that is.
Is that the same reporter that Bill Belichick said you got to go ask him?
Yeah, probably. It probably is. But what they're referring to is, Carson Wentz wanting to be traded and everything. And there is no truth to those rumors, because notice they said, are you going to address, or how do you feel about the rumors that are out there that he wants to be traded? Rumors are not factual things. They may be based on some micro fact that exists, some very small detail that may actually be true as far as what's going on in the organization. But on the whole, rumors are not true in any way, shape, or form. It's just hearsay. And the hearsay is that, he wants to be traded. The reality is that his agent is probably leveraging some type of power move for his client, which is what agents are tasked and supposed to do. They're supposed to, do what's in the best interest of their client. Unfortunately, the client played 12 of 16 games like a first-year quarterback, and this is his fifth year in the league. So, one, who are you going to get traded to who wants his performance this year? Pod, correct me if I'm wrong. Carson Wentz had 16 touchdown passes, 15 interceptions. I believe he led the league in fumbles with 9. And also through those 12 games, still the highest sack quarterback in the league at 63. I believe those numbers are accurate.
Even if they are, they're better than my quarterback. So I will gladly take him off your hands. I have an offensive line that will actually protect him.
Pod, there are quarterbacks who played all 16 games and weren't sacked 40 times, and my quarterback was sacked over 60 and 12. So that's very problematic. I know it probably would be a small upgrade over your quarterback situation this year, but Carson Wentz is not getting traded. Let's start with that. There's no way he gets traded unless some team is willing to take the full brunt of that contract that we just gave him. His contract, like we said on the show many times on a Thursday, his contract makes him pretty much almost impossible to trade. On the flip side, then you say, well, what do you do with Jalen Hurts? Well, Hurts is still raw. There's talent. He provided the spark. He did what he was supposed to do in the last 3.5 games of the season. But there's still some things that he needs to be polished on. He's not there yet. Can he play this game? Yes. Can he play at a high level? Absolutely. The offense performed better with him in there? Definitely. But there's still things he needs to work on. So I don't think either of these quarterbacks goes anywhere. I do believe there's an open competition when camp opens next year. I will say
clearly Nate Sudfeld is in the driver's seat there.
We will never mention that name again. Thank you very much. Persona non grata number 2. I will say this. This later on this week, and whether that's tomorrow, Thursday, or Friday, Pederson and Roseman will sit down with Jeffrey Lurie, and some things need to be hashed out, because I think the rift exists between those two, and in a broader sense, the coaching staff and management, in that management is meddling too much in what the coaches are doing. Pod, I sent you a nice little blurb yesterday
You did. Thank you. I pretty much I pretty much reiterated your blurb on a radio hit in Albany. I think it's 93 point something, the ESPN affiliate in Albany, New York. Thanks for having me on, guys.
And the specifics there, and I'll try to be as brief as possible with this example. You remember a couple of years ago, Jerry Jones decided that then coach Jason Garrett, he was going to dictate coaches on his staff, and he basically hired a passing game coordinator, a run game coordinator, and then an offensive consultant. And there was truly no real offensive coordinator. So now you've got 4 voices in the play calling room, and all 4 are equal voices because they have equal say. You remember all that and how it blew up in their faces and it didn't work out? Yeah. So quietly, Philadelphia did the same thing this year in that they expanded the analytics team, if you will, from 1 person to about 3 or 4 people who had say-so on which play should be called on downs and distances. There was a passing game coordinator. There was an offensive consultant. The OC was OC in title alone. He had no real power. So now you're talking about 5 people or 5 different units on the offensive side of the ball, all clamoring for which play should be run based on down distance, time in the game, and situation based on the score. And that has plagued us this year. And from management side, they wanted the analytics people to have more say-so in the play calling because the Super Bowl year, analytics worked. What they failed to understand is it was 1 person pretty much dictating, here's the percentage if we go for it, we punt, or we kick the field goal, based on that midfield no man's range that year. That expansion from 1 person to an entire team was unnecessary. And I've always said that on the offensive side of the ball, you only need the head coach if he's offensive minded and the offensive coordinator. And between the 2 of them, 1 person needs to call plays and the other one needs to pretty much be the balancing act on, let's not do that this time and save it for later. Something to that effect. Or, hey, too many passes, let's run the ball.
Can I highlight something that you're talking about here? Because when it comes to these analytics guys, it's pretty clear that these guys are beta men. All right. And what I mean by that is they're not an alpha male. And football guys are alpha males. And so the beta males are like, oh, well, we're going to be alpha. We're going to show you. We're going to take all these numbers and we're going to show you exactly how this is supposed to work. By the way, here's the way it's supposed to work. This is the way it should work. This is the way it will work in synchronicity. Your analytics guys go, this is the number 1 play that you should run in this particular situation based on the numbers. Your offensive coordinator takes that recommendation and goes, nah, I'm feeling that this play is going to be much more effective than the play that was recommended. This is the play that I'm calling. The head coach then says, I'm going to go with that particular play, or says, you know what? We need to go with the analytics play here. I think my offense coordinator is going a little too much on his gut here. I think we need a little bit more backing. That's the chain of command. That's the way the play calling should end up working on offense, especially when your head coach is an offensive head coach.
And Pod, the key phrase in there, chain of command. Because with the Eagles and with the Cowboys previously, there is no chain of command. Everyone has an equal voice. So when everyone has an equal voice in what gets called and when, you end up with chaos and catastrophe and a kerfluffle of what's going on the field because the offense looks completely out of whack. There's no rhythm. There's no synchronicity. You also get things like, and if you've heard me complain on this show numerous times, why does every single wide receiver on the roster need to play on Sunday? The best 2 to 4 receivers should be on the field at all times with both tight ends and the top 2 running backs. The analytics team is pretty much who dictates, well, these players work best in these formations and these plays. And that's how that worked this year. This is why Philly's offense looks crazy. So that's why on one play you start out with, when they're healthy, Jackson and Jeffrey, and the next play is Ward and Hightower, and the next play it's Rieger and Fulgham, and you're trying to figure out why the receivers being subbed out on every single play. Well, the analytics say that these guys are better for these type of plays. Thus, the quarterback has no synchronicity with his wide receivers. He doesn't know who to trust. He doesn't know who's going to be out there, especially on key down. So when you're looking at 3rd and 8 or longer and you're waiting for your go-to guy to be out there, and if your tight ends are taken away, you have to throw to a wide receiver, you don't trust the guys who are out there because they weren't just out there on the last play when it was, say, 2nd and 10.
I mean, so I saw a little bit of this in New England. I'm guessing this is what went on with the running back situation because there were times where the running backs were looking great, and then they would disappear for 2 quarters, and they wouldn't even call their number, or they wouldn't even be out on the field. And I'd be sitting there going, why did, take the Buffalo game, for instance. The Patriots had 140 yards in the first half alone. And then the second half, the running game disappeared completely. It wasn't because they were massively behind. It took a while for the Bills to build up that lead and that blowout in that particular game. But the Patriots completely abandoned the run and completely abandoned Sony and Michel in that game, which made 0 sense. I don't understand. It's not that hard, and it shouldn't even be hard for an analytics guy to see if this play is working. I now need a set of plays that I can build success off of. So when I'm successful in the run game, to get my passing game going, I need to run some play action, maybe some RPOs, which your team is famous for. Run some RPOs, get something that builds off of the success of the one area that is working so that you can get the other area to start working, and then it all starts working together. Your center, Jason Kelce, I wish I had that sound because it was a great –
oh my God.
He had a great post-game rant. And it's never about one – the beauty of football is it is never about one player. I can even bring this all the way down to when I was coaching flag football and explaining this to the kids. Yes, one guy takes the football over the goal line. But to get that one guy over the goal line, it takes everybody else to do their job properly, to be in the right spots, to run the right routes, to get that one guy in. So while that one guy actually physically scores the touchdown, it's actually the whole team that has scored the touchdown. And it will always be that way. One guy will never be a superstar like a Michael Jordan. You can never have a Michael Jordan just take over a football game. That doesn't happen. It may look like it happens. It may look like Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are the only 2 guys on the Green Bay Packers doing anything. But it's actually the fact that it's Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams doing great things with Aaron Jones contributing, with an offensive line that is blocking, with tight ends and other wide receivers that are running their routes to take the defense away from Davante Adams so he's not doubled or triple teamed. It's all of these things that work together in perfect harmony that makes it work. So you analytics nerds, for lack of a better phrase, you got to get
that's accurate.
You got to get the whole picture. You're taking just a little snippet of your picture. What is it about? It's not just about sample size. It's about sample size in context that makes this game work. And you're sort of taking the sample size, but you're eliminating the context of the sample.
So I will close with this about the Eagles, and it's 2 small things. One, management needs to do a better job of getting the players that are going to help this team and just stay on that side. They also need to stay out of the coaching area. Let Doug do what he wants to do with his coaches and leave him alone. Stop hiring people to put in his room. Don't hire passing game coordinators and offensive consultants that he doesn't want or need. I mean, he was an offensive coordinator in Kansas City. He's now the head coach. If whoever he wants to promote or hire as his new OC, let him do that. These are the guys that he trusts to rely on. Let him do it. Understand that this team, the offensive staff, was pretty much gutted after winning the Super Bowl. The OC became head coach in Indianapolis, and the quarterback's coach became the OC in Minnesota. So let him rebuild this coaching staff on the offensive side as he sees fit. We will end up with a new defensive coordinator. The second thing I want to say is, Pod, I don't know if you have this sound, but Joe Judge from Monday Morning.
No, I got some Monday sound, but I didn't get Joe Judge, and I saw it late this morning that he had some words for the Eagles.
Yeah, and I have some words for Joe Judge, Giants organization, former and current Giants players, and any Giants fan. Suck on an egg and choke on it. Six games and crying about what we did on Sunday night does not give you credence to whine about we missed the playoffs because you guys didn't. Blow it out your a-hole.
No.
I could give two rats craps about how you feel about what the Eagles did on Sunday night or didn't do. And you lit what? No, that was the plan going in. That I knew that was going to be the plan once the broadcast team announced it. I knew what the outcome was going to be the moment Michaels and Collinsworth said, when Nate Sudfeld was going to get some snaps tonight, I threw my hands up and just accepted the fact the game was over. We were going to lose. For you guys to whine about what we did or didn't do because you only won 6 games this year and needed help, next time win 8 games, win 9 games, hell, win 10 games. Then don't rely on help from someone else. If you had actually won this division outright, you wouldn't need us to do anything for you. Kick rocks.
I'm surprised Joe Judge, coming from the organization that he came from, went that route. Because quite honestly, we wouldn't be crying about another team not playing and costing us a spot. Guess what? You can only worry about your own. You only worry about your own stuff. You can't control anything outside of your own organization. So,
Pod, correct me if I'm wrong here. Did you guys whine about a tiebreaker not going in your favor the year Brady was out and you went 11-5 and missed the playoffs? I don't remember. No. Was there whining there, or was it just well, next year we just have to do better?
Nope. Yep. It is what it is. And we will come back next year and we'll have our starting quarterback back.
And he's from the Patriots organization talking about what you integrity and what you did, embarrassment and get this grown man a tissue.
FYI, not really an embarrassment either. I mean, enough of this. They were tanking for better draft position.
What draft position?
Let's examine this closely, shall we,
please.
James? Philadelphia is currently picking 6th in the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. That is their spot. Right. According to what I have read, if they had won the game, they would have moved down to 9th. So they moved up 3 spots by losing this particular game. All right, let's talk about what are they moving up for? Are they moving up for a quarterback? Okay, no. Probably not. But let's say, argument's sake, let's say they were moving up for a quarterback. Well, guess what? 4 of the 5 teams ahead of you are arguably in the quarterback race. So you're not getting a quarterback. All right. Mm-hmm. Are you moving up for the offensive lineman in the draft? Oh, guess what? Penei Sewell. Guess what? Cincinnati is right ahead of you. They're all over Penei Sewell. You ain't getting him either. All right. Nope. Are you moving up for a wide receiver in the draft? Well, you're going to tell me you can't get a top wide receiver at 9 that you could get at that doesn't make sense. How about tight end? Round? How about are you going for a tight end? Because I saw Zach Ertz is an available free agent and is probably moving on from the organization, which I've got a jersey waiting for him up here in Foxborough.
Hey, you keep your hands off my tight end.
Are you moving up for a tight end? Yeah, that's way too early to be drafting a tight end, and you have one. So you're not moving. There's literally nothing you have done to improve your position to get the player that you need to help improve your team. From moving from 9 to 6. So to say that you tanked for draft position is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
These
crazy.
People are claiming this. Cut it out.
No, that's insane. Done. And like I told you yesterday, we need a lot more than the 9th or 6th pick is going to provide in the draft to turn this team around. Because, I mean, let's just call it what it is. The team may want to try to phrase it as reloading or fine-tooling. We're rebuilding. We are rebuilding. And, part of that rebuild is going to be very easy because Jason Kelce is the only offensive lineman who took basically every single snap this season. The other 4 will be back next year. The good thing is that we don't have to worry about Jason Peters. He should go into retirement gracefully. I love Jason Peters. I think he is one of the best linemen all time, not just in Philadelphia, just the entire league. I want him to retire. If he wants to come on as an offensive line coach and the team wants to keep him around to do that, absolutely do that. But he can't play anymore. He can't play guard. He can't play tackle. He's a shell of his former self. His feet don't move like they used to. As far as the wide receiver spot, Alshon Jeffrey just took a restructuring of his contract, which means he's coming back next year, unfortunately. I would love to jettison both him and Deshaun Jackson because they can't stay healthy. And let a lot of these young guys like Hightower and Ward and Fulgham get the bulk of the snaps on offense. And let that be the three-man rotation at wide receiver and work in Jalen Reagor as needed. I would love Zach Ertz to come back. I don't know what he wants. I don't know what the team is offering. I don't know if there's a middle ground that can be reached. The way this team works best and the way this team has always worked is two tight ends and running the football and running up tempo. That's how Carson Wentz functions best in this offense. Those two tight ends, two competent, solid wide receivers, a versatile running back, which you have in Miles Sanders, who needs more touches and carries, and methodically move the ball down the field and let the big plays happen organically, constantly coaching like we're at the 40-yard line, let's dial up a big play. Not the way to do this. On defense, we need everything because Cox and Graham are not getting any younger, and they're currently towards the end of each of their respective primes. Hargrave and Malik Jackson stepped up this year. Jackson also took a restructuring of his contract. Slay will be back next year. We need better talent in the secondary because I will always harp that Jalen Mills is trash. And we need somebody in the scouting room to identify a solid linebacker. So after all that being said, moving from 9 to 6 doesn't help this team.
By the way, my son and I are doing a Chicago Bears rebuild on Madden. Fletcher Cox was a big part of that rebuild, which is
how dare you? How dare you? Why would you do that?
Because he's good. And he helps make that Chicago's Bear defense even better.
Oh, my God. They already have Khalil Mack.
Yeah, we get rid of Khalil Mack. He's too much for what he provides. Plus, we end up trust me, it's Madden. We didn't do a realistic rebuild. We did all the Madden tricks to make like a super team in Chicago. It was great. Anyway, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is their quarterback. I mean, the only way to do that.
You know what? I don't even want to know how you swung that. I don't want to know how you swung that. Crazy shenanigans you pulled off.
All right. Enough of the crazy Madden stuff that, can't happen in the real world. Enough of Eagles today. I mean, that was a lot of Eagles. Holy moly. Hope you enjoyed that, Eagles fans. I hope all you Eagles fans are listening. Now it's time for the Jets. And Christopher Johnson, chairman and CEO of the New York Jets, has finally ended the long New York Jets nightmare. He fired Adam Gase, but I now may see where Adam Gase got his media bona fides from, how to deal with the media. I think he might have been, getting cues from his boss. Let's listen to Christopher Johnson and how he answers the New York media.
Just why do you think it didn't work out with Adam? And moving forward, what did you learn from the last coaching search, and why should fans have confidence that this time you're going to get it right?
Well, look, let me start with why they should have confidence that we'll get it right. In this room, we're going to have me, and we're going to have Jaime, who has been part of the Jets for 20 years, was a big part of the search for Joe. And he's a highly trusted advisor to both me and Joe. And we also have Joe, and this is important. Joe has a lot of background. He has a lot of time in this league. He's well respected, and make no mistake, he's going to be taking lead on this. His opinion, while this is a collaborative effort, his opinion will be taken most seriously. And I think that fans can feel safe knowing that we're going to get this right. I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
So first, it starts with a very long pause, and then it's like, well, you have me. Then it's I totally forgot what I was talking about. What did you ask me again? Oh boy. When we talk about the arrow up, down, sideways, the arrow is way down on the New York Jets. I mean, I ended up doing my final power rankings of the year, and I put the Jaguars last because they have the number 1 pick in the draft. They sort of earned that right, so to speak. But I really still think that the Jets are the worst team in the NFL with the absolute worst situation, the worst roster. They are in the worst. Like I see a lot more hope in building blocks in Jacksonville than I see in New York. I think New York is they got a long road ahead of them.
Yeah, this is an organizational issue. I want to be kind here and say they do have some talent you can start building around. I think it's too soon. I'm trying to be nice here, Jay.
They have they have arguably 4 guys, and here they are. Mekhi Becton, who's an offensive tackle. Quinnen Williams, who's a defensive tackle. Marcus May, who is probably going to pull a Jamal Adams this offseason, I would assume.
I would love May.
And wouldn't everyone? And Sam Darnold, who, again, that's the arguable 4th guy, is Sam Darnold. There's nobody else on that team.
Okay,
nobody.
That's a start. Look. You've got
that's a start.
2 players. Hold. It's a, and that's all I'm saying. It's a start. You've got your quarterback, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, and a secondary player. Okay. And mind you, the big name free agent they signed in the offseason opted out this year because of COVID. Remember, they signed C.J. Mosley from the Ravens, who didn't play this year. So that's technically 5 people. You've got building blocks for each level of your defense. You've got a stud offensive lineman. You got a quarterback who, look, unfortunately, this is just the nature of the business, ended up in a situation where he pretty much had an idiot for a head coach and multiple offensive schemes over each year of his career thus far. He is still on his rookie deal. So I think it's too early to get rid of him. Look, Darnold is Neil's boyfriend. He's never going to quit him. But I don't think Darnold is anywhere near as bad as he played this season. Can he be a solid, competent quarterback in the realm of, say, like a Stafford?
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. Yes, he can be those. He can be those guys. You know, as far as consistent play week in, week out.
By the way, when I say Nick Foles, I mean like a career backup quarterback.
Look, that's worst case scenario. That's worst case, and I don't think he's there yet. I just don't think he's there yet. Look, they've already played themselves out of Trevor Lawrence. There's no point in going after any other quarterback because, you know, it's pretty much Trevor Lawrence or bust. So since it's bust, start building this team properly along your offensive and defensive lines. They drafted Chris Mims last year, who got a late start because he had some injuries in the beginning of the season. Find a running back. You know, anywhere. There are definitely going to be several free agent backs this year. There's definitely going to be
there are
some late round picks that you can throw back there. Stop driving Frank Gore into the ground, please. It's not fair to him.
I'm 100% on board with you about Sam Darnold. I think there's still talent there, and I think he needs to be rebuilt. We can rebuild him. We can make him better.
He's not the $6 million man.
I think he's got the talent to be a starting quarterback, but he needs to have the talent around him. He can't be the guy that's going to make the guys around him better. He needs the guys around him to already be better so that he can get better at this particular point in his career. He's not at the point yet where he can improve other players. And I look at and they mentioned it during the Patriots game, the seeing ghosts game, right? He still has that problem where he doesn't read defenses properly. So
and that's not good.
How do we fix that? Well, we got to simplify the offense. How do we do that? We rely heavily on the run game. We do a lot of short, quick passing routes that give him only one decision. We take away all the decision making from him. We go, if you go here, if that's not open, you go here. If that's not open, you go here. If that's not open, you throw the ball away. Like you just got to dumb down the offense to its most simplest form for him so that you can start building his confidence back. And then as he starts to grow with that offense and he's growing with this talent around him that is better, he's starting to elevate his game to match their talent level. Then you are able to start getting a little bit more complex. You're able to throw a little bit more on top of that. By the way, does this sound familiar? This sounds exactly like what they did with Brady. This is 100. Brady was not the greatest quarterback of all time when he came out of college. Hell, he was a 6th round draft pick and he couldn't throw a ball. He couldn't complete a pass past 10 yards. Go back and look at his first 2 seasons. His completion percentage past 10 yards is ridiculously bad. His completion percentage under 10 yards is super, super high. So, yes, I always see things through a Patriots prism because that's my team. But honestly, that was what was successful for 20 years. So if you want to have that same success, you kind of have to copy that plan. And it's not that difficult to do. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It's football 101. It's not, you don't have to make this into a mad scientist analytics game. You can sort of go back, rebuild him, build up that team. He's going to need an offensive line, and he's going to need, like you said, he's going to need a quality runner behind him. You don't have to spend big money on a quality runner. As you said, there's going to be a ton of free agent running backs out there. They're going to be able to perform for the New York Jets. By the way,
yeah, absolutely.
That is probably the nicest thing I will ever do for the Jets ever. Like, I already feel dirty about it. I feel like I got to go brush my teeth or something. Like, I just feel awful giving the Jets any sort of advice. It's terrible. Arrows
what else you got?
Arrows are pointed up for this guy, Zac Taylor, who did not fall victim on Pink Slip Monday, as we have renamed the day after the regular season ends. Pink Monday, as we will now forever call it. Zac Taylor did not get a pink slip, but it didn't mean the media gave him a pass. Also, don't mistaken him. He wouldn't trade anything for this past season.
Do you think his job has proven to be a bigger rebuild than you anticipated it being when you showed up 2 years ago?
No, I just think we have dealt with the circumstances that have been forth. Losing your quarterback, losing your running back, losing some key pieces are always challenging. But again, there's a silver lining to that. You get a chance to evaluate some other players, and maybe some spots you got to coach differently with different pieces, and you learn a lot about yourself that you can learn from these experiences, because that's, you learn more sometimes from these difficult seasons than the seasons where you go to the Super Bowl and everything's easy. And so I wouldn't trade what's happened. Obviously, I would trade it for a lot more wins and championships. Don't mistaken me here. But I won't trade the experiences that we've had that we're able to build off of. Me personally, our coordinators, our position coaches, the players, there's going to be a lot to draw from going forward that we have learned that are going to make us better in the future. And so I'm excited to move forward on that path.
I mean, again, the arrow is definitely pointed up. They have their quarterback of the future. They just need to put a few more pieces in place, which they can easily do this offseason and this upcoming draft. And the Bengals should be in a good spot here moving forward. I think the toughest thing for the Bengals is you have a Browns team that is clearly on the up. You have a Ravens team and a Steelers team that know what success is. So that's probably the toughest part about being a Bengals fan at this point. You have 3 other teams that are also really, really good.
There's a reason that I would easily say that the Bengals is probably the hardest organization to run, coach, be a fan of in the NFL, just because of their division. Because you always have a Cleveland team that's, quote, getting better for every rebuild they try to do. And as you mentioned, the Ravens and the Steelers are pretty much just trading knockout blows against each other to win this division year in and year out. I mean, when was the last time someone other than the Ravens or the Steelers won this division? Because I can't remember it. You know, since its inception, I don't think the Bengals – well, no, there was that one year the Bengals won, but the Steelers were a wild card with Carson Palmer tore his ACL in that playoff game, and the Steelers went on to win a championship. So that's one. But I don't think the Browns have ever won this division as it's currently configured.
No.
So, I mean, you know, the Bengals have had some success moderately, but over the last decade, I'd say none. And you want every team to at least have that taste of, you know, playoff runs, whatever they may be, 3, 4, 5 years. We're always in the playoffs and hopefully catching lightning in a bottle, whatever. That's what the league wants. Unfortunately, the Bengals just find themselves in a division where the two teams at the top do a great job of acquiring talent and drafting, and it just makes things difficult for anybody else to do anything.
By the way, Kevin Stefanski became the greatest Cleveland Browns head coach in his first year as the Cleveland Browns head coach. He has the most wins in his first year as the Browns head coach in Browns franchise history. Better than Paul Brown.
Well, you know, when Paul Brown was coaching, the schedule was only like 9 games long and there were 6 teams in the league.
Yeah, I think Paul Brown had 11 in his first year as head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
I mean, yeah, if you count playoffs, sure.
So Zac Taylor ended up with 12. And of course he has some postseason games, so he could probably add to that. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the Browns are in a pretty good spot, and I'd still say the Browns arrow is up. I keep it sideways only because they're the Browns. I mean,
look, the Browns will brown at some point. Remember week 16 against the Jets.
That's true. That is 100% correct. Hey, you know, just because the season was over doesn't mean that your fantasy season has to be over. No. We invite you to go and try out thrivefantasy.com. Just go to anywhere that you get apps. You can get the Thrive Fantasy app on your Apple phone or in your Android phone. However, get your app, go get that. Sign up, put in a deposit anywhere between $20 and $50, and we're going to double it for you by using our promo code NextFanUp. So go and I'll either be responsible for doubling your winnings or be responsible for half of your losses. I mean, it's a win-win situation here. Either way you look at it. So go ahead, thrivefantasy.com if you want to check it out that way, or just go to your app store and download the Thrive Fantasy app. Use the promo code NextFanUp. We're going to double your first deposit between $20 and up to $50. NextFanUp is the promo code, thrivefantasy.com. All right. We talked about the New York Giants briefly. And Joe Judge's comments. I did get Logan Ryan's comments, though, after the game. He kind of put the cart in front of the horse here.
And what would you think about facing Tom Brady in the playoffs again if that's what happens?
I texted him already. I look forward to it. I envision it happening. I'm ready. You know, he beat me once in New England. My first year in Tennessee, I beat him. You know, last year in Tennessee, we obviously played this year. It's not me versus him, but I'm ready for round 3. I'm ready for it. It'll be the greatest challenge. He's the greatest test at the high-level quarterback play. No matter what the stats say, he's the greatest test when it comes to the IQ of the game. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think he'll look forward for that too. It'll be good for the fans.
Did he text you back yet?
Well, let me see. He's a busy man. Uh-oh. No, not him. Okay, no, it wasn't him. So if he's listening to this, which he's not, text me back.
How many of Tom Brady's teammates do you think actually have Tom Brady's number?
I would say pretty much almost all of them.
You think?
Yeah. Because look, there's still former players who are doing TV work who still text him from time to time. Randy Moss.
Yeah, but Randy Moss makes sense to have Tom Brady's number. He was a leader on that team. Teddy Bruschi was a leader on that team. Logan Ryan was just sort of like, I mean, he was a good cornerback, but I wouldn't call Logan Ryan like a big leader of the New England Patriots team, right up there hanging out with Brady and going to parties with Giselle and such.
No, he was a nice little cog in that secondary, which as a unit played overly well. I wouldn't say he was a standout member of that secondary at any given point in his career.
Like Jacoby Myers probably has Brady's number, but that's because he was a wide receiver, and Brady liked to work out with his wide receivers in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every offensive lineman he ever played with has his number, because if you ever hear the stories, they talk about his drinking prowess.
Yeah, he takes care of his O-line.
Yeah,
but yeah, I got to imagine there's probably does Nate Sudfeld have Brady's number? Probably only because Logan Ryan gave it to him, right? I'm sorry, I mentioned the wrong name. That wasn't Nate Ebner. Was the guy I was thinking of?
Ebner. Okay.
He's a special teams guy who's now also with the Giants. Yeah, I didn't mean to drop Nate Sudfeld. That was a Freudian slip, my friend.
I guess the proper comparison probably like a Willie McGinnis, maybe.
I'll bet Willie McGinnis has Brady's number. Come on, he's another big leader of that team.
Seymour,
he's got it, definitely. Will Fork has it. I mean,
Vrabel. You think Vrabel calls him? Did Vrabel call him after last year's game when they won? I mean,
yes, I guarantee Vrabel has Brady's number. He definitely talks with Brady, and he talks trash with Brady all the time. Guaranteed. I'm trying to think. I mean, it would have to be someone like so obscure that I barely even know who the heck that guy is.
Yeah. Well,
I just can't imagine Brady is like loosey goosey with his number. Like, here's my number. Text me whenever you want.
If you're part of the organization that he plays with, then I'm pretty sure at some point you're going to get it.
But how about on the Bucs right now? You think who's that rookie running back that they have? Do you think he's got Brady's number?
We're in Tampa Bay right now?
In Tampa Bay, yeah. Like, obviously, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, they've got Brady's number. But who's the rookie that they drafted? He had to play
John McCoy and that kid. I would say by now, considering it's the playoffs, yeah, he definitely has it by now. In week one, he didn't.
I don't know. I don't know. Clearly, Gronk has his number and he regrets it. Like, he checks it out. He gets the text from Gronk and goes, "Oh, come on, man, really?"
Look, I'll say this just to bring it back to Logan Ryan and the Giants. In their situation, I'm looking at the last 4 games of the season, and there's a 3-game losing stretch to the Cardinals, Browns, and Ravens, in which they scored a total of 26 points.
Yeah. Yeah, the Giants were in control. There was a point in the season where it was the Washington football team and the New York Giants. They were boom, boom. And the Washington football team went out and made some victories that they weren't supposed to win. And the Giants did not. They lost their games. No. So the only team that can look at themselves and go, "Hey, we got our job accomplished," was the Washington football team.
Pretty much.
So, and even then, I question if they really got the job accomplished. But in any case,
and I hate Washington, being from there.
Since we're talking about Tom Brady, I might as well finish up a little bit of Tom Brady talk, because he ended up targeting Antonio Brown like a ridiculous number of times in the game, and part of that was because Mike Evans got hurt. But the other part was apparently he had a big $250,000 incentive that he had to catch, and he actually ended up getting it. Now, what Brady did wasn't as egregious necessarily as what Russell Wilson did for the Seahawks. Let's hear from Russell Wilson.
Russ, I'm hoping you can confirm a social media rumor for us. David Moore, the pass there at the end, why did you guys call that play?
Yeah, we called that play because David had $100,000 if he gets that catch. So, it's a blessing to be able to, help his family and his daughter and all that stuff. So that's it's part of the game. We wanted to get him that catch, and so we were able to dial that up for him that last play.
So, I mean, Brady was throwing like shovel passes to Antonio Brown to get him his. But I mean, the Seahawks actually, Russell literally put the outcome of the game on the line by not going into victory formation and throwing a pass to David Moore at the end of the game. By the way, if you're just handing out $100,000, how do I get in on that? I'd like that. Can I get in on some of that? Like, can you hand me just throw me a couple of shovel passes for $250K? I'm okay. I'm good with that. Can I get on that? How do we sign up for that?
It's called playing football, Jay. You have to actually put on shoulder pads and get hit on Sundays.
Well, I mean, I would, but I don't think anybody would actually sign me. I guess that's the problem.
Probably not, no. But look, week 17, all these guys with incentive clauses, especially if they're in like playoff contention, you know, if the quarterback can help them out, they will. I mean, who was it? Sanders for the why am I blanking? For the Saints, had a clause. He had to catch like 60 balls or something. So Drew Brees and Sean Payton dialed up quite a few pass plays to make sure he hit his 60 catches plus for the year, you know, against the Panthers. So, I mean, it's always something towards the end of the season where players are like, you know, maybe it's a number of carries away. Maybe it's a number of yards away. I mean, gosh, we saw that in the offseason. Derrick Henry signed a new contract. I would love to know what the incentive clauses were for this year, because having rushed over 2,000 yards and what was it, 15, 18 touchdowns? What the escalators were for this season alone, because I'm pretty sure he smashed all of them.
I'm pretty sure he did. The problem is, of course, is now next season he doesn't get any escalators because he outdid himself this year. Regression, it's a harsh mistress.
Well, I mean, he's going to regress because 2,000 yards in back-to-back seasons is not something that happens often.
Well, and it's not.
Matter of fact, I think it's only happened once.
Well, and history shows that running backs that put that many yards in back-to-back seasons, their third season is definitely a downer. So bring in somebody to help out, Derrick Henry, Tennessee. I know you got the playoffs on your mind, but start thinking about that for next season.
You still got Lewis.
No, they don't. He's in New York. They drafted a kid. I can't remember his name. Of course, it's escaping me now. So all these names start to blur together, people. It's hard to keep track of 32 teams. It's hard enough to keep track of one, never mind 32. All right. Speaking of keeping track, is A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans talking to me? I think he's talking to me. Are you talking to me?
No.
I think you're talking to me.
AJ, you guys had a big lead, and obviously there was a chance to blow it open. In the moment, is it fun to be in a tense back and forth game like that?
This ain't no video game, Pa. No, you know, we're not trying to go back and forth like that. You know, it's the NFL. Like, you never know. You got to keep going. You know, anything can change at any moment. You know, that's why you got to keep your foot on the pedal. So it was definitely tough, but we came out with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he says pod. No, pod. It ain't no video game. Pod.
No. He said, nah. This ain't no video game.
Let's hear.
Pod. This ain't no video game, pod.
All right, maybe. It sounds like pod. It sounds like pod.
It's definitely nah.
All right. I guess he's not talking to me. It ain't no video game, though. It definitely isn't.
It's definitely not a video game.
Justin Herbert, the young rookie, he's got he's got the arrow pointed up for the Los Angeles Chargers. Anthony Lynn did unfortunately get a pink slip, which
crime
is
and a travesty.
I think Anthony Lynn deserved to keep that role, but I did say he did make it really hard towards the end of the season for me to really come to his defense.
Year 4 of coaching, and you're doing rookie coach stuff as far as clock management, players, game situation calls, stuff like that. You can't do that in year 4 of coaching. You can do it in year 1. You can't do it in year 4.
I mean, he'll be just fine. He's going to end up with one of these other teams as a coordinator or assistant head coach or whatever. He'll be just fine. I'm not worried about Anthony Lynn.
But
Justin Herbert.
Question whether he gets a second chance because, and we'll talk about this later in the offseason. You know how often minority coaches get second chances. It's very rare.
Well, I don't think he'll get a second chance this year.
No, not this year, but down the road.
Down the road, I think he can. I think he can. Yes, he made a lot of mistakes this season, but I think he can point to this season as sort of like his resume. Be like, look at what I did with a rookie quarterback. Yes, it took my starter to get his lung punctured by the doctor for me to admit that the rookie quarterback deserved to play. But yes, I made some time management mistakes. Yes, I made some special teams errors. Yes, I did all this. But look at how well that rookie quarterback played under my tutelage and those running backs. Quite honestly, I mean, Austin Eckler missed most of the year. They did a good job with the lottery of backs they had. But Justin Herbert has some things that he still needs to work on. And Shelley Smith at ESPN is trying to give him some advice on how to deal with the media.
Shelley Smith.
Does the beard stay?
Sorry, what was that?
Does the beard stay?
I don't know. I think that's probably something that I'll address when I have more time. It's just kind of been focusing on football, watching film. So,
okay, someday you'll get rid of that answer. Maybe not. It's a good one.
So the kid got his hair cut, and he looked like a 12-year-old bully punk with all the pimples on the face and then the spiky do and. At the end of the year, he ended up growing himself a little bit of a mustache and a little bit of a goatee. And Shelley Smith is asking him, does the beard stay? And instead of him just saying, I don't know, I kind of like it, he's like, nah, I've been focusing on football. You're too busy focusing on football to shave his face. Like, what? What's wrong with you, Justin Herbert?
It's week 17. You don't have to focus on football anymore. Your season's done.
I've just been watching too much film. That's why the beard is here in the first place.
Oh my gosh.
I've been locked in a room. I haven't seen a mirror or bathroom. I can't shave my face. What's a razor? I don't know what that is. Can somebody give me a deal? Gillette, Bic, Harry Shave Club, Dollar Shave Club. Anybody. I need your help.
Oh man.
I'm too focused.
He'll figure it out.
Too focused on watching film.
No. He'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. That pretty much at the end of the season, when your season's done, just answer that question. Yes, no, kind of liking it. I don't know if he's married yet.
I got a great deal at Christmas on one of these TVs. One of these new HD smart TVs. I got a great deal at Christmas time. Watching too much film.
Well, Jay, considering your team's out the playoffs, I think you already told us that, your wife is happy that there's no playoff beard.
Oh, that is the worst. And you know what else is the worst? Is now that there's two women in my house that are shaving, I'm stuck to that raspberry freaking cream shaving cream again. I need the man smelling shaving cream. I don't know if that means I got to go to the store myself to get it.
Yeah, yes, you do.
This is pain. I'm stuck with the peaches and cream on my face. It's like, no, this isn't working for me.
Jay, you can always go to the store and get the nice little, Gillette shaving cream. You're up there in New England.
I need the good stuff. I need the man smelling stuff on my face. It's terrible. All right. We will wrap things up with the gift that just keeps on giving, and I hope he gives to us more and more in the upcoming seasons. And that is Houston Texans defensive lineman J.J. Watt.
Oh, man.
Now, last week we played the greatest post-game speech that you've ever heard from J.J. Watt. He was all fired up talking about, this is a privilege. We go out there and we win. That's our job. If you're not going to do it, you shouldn't be here. This is his mindset going into the press conference. Okay, this is what he starts the press conference off with.
I'm not trying to be trouble here, but if tomorrow is necessary, I'll do it tomorrow. But if it's going to be the same questions, I just don't want to answer the same questions 2 days in a row.
They told us not to ask anything about the future tonight, to stick to the game.
Do you want us to go ahead and ask you about the future tonight?
Whatever you guys prefer. Whatever you guys prefer, I'm here for you guys. I know you guys got a tough job, so I'm here for you guys. You choose.
All right. So that's how the press conference starts. All right. So that sort of lays the groundwork. Now, this press conference, JJ Watt press conferences are never long. This one in particular was only about 5.5 minutes. This is how the press conference ends.
John McClain.
How would you describe the way the defense played this season?
It's a setup question, John. Terrible. I mean, we played horrendous. Like, that's pretty obvious.
John McClain, probably one of the most well-respected, well-renowned beat writers in all of the NFL in Houston, especially in Houston, asks the question, how would you describe the defensive play? And JJ Watt is like, that is a terrible question. That is a setup. I mean, horrendous, obviously.
John McClain's come a long way from Nakatomi Towers. I had expected better from him.
Listen, JJ Watt, I don't know JJ Watt is a guy that I feel, especially based off of his comments last week, is a guy that you want to build your team around. Unfortunately, he's got a contract that's going to make it very difficult for the Texans based on what the previous administration did to keep him around.
No, they're not. Because remember, this year he played for no guaranteed money. There's no guaranteed money left on his contract.
Yeah, but I think he's at a price point. I don't know. A lot will depend on the way things go, but I think JJ Watt ends up on a different team next year. I don't think he wants to sit around waiting for a new administration to be competitive again, even though he's got Deshaun Watson. They've got that. To me, the arrow for the Texans is sideways, slightly pointing down.
Look, they have no draft picks for the first 2 rounds. Their first draft pick, I believe, is round 3. And
that's why it's slightly pointing down. I mean, you've got Deshaun Watson, which keeps it sideways.
Right. And they need a lot. And unfortunately, the lot that they need, I would say, is more so on the defensive side of the ball than the offense. And I'm not saying that they don't need any offensive help. They need offensive help. Let's not be completely insane here. I mean, you traded away arguably, they definitely need an offensive line to protect him so he's not running around so much for his life. Between he and Russell Wilson, I don't know who scrambles more. But they got to do something about the offensive line. They need a solid running back. Look, David Johnson had a great final 2 weeks of the season. I'm not saying he's back to what made him a stud in Arizona, but he's at least rounding back into a solid, dependable back. Combined with Duke Johnson, when he's healthy, is a nice little 1-2 combination. But like you said, the offensive line would make them immensely better. I think they need just one running back to solidify that backfield, someone that they don't have to worry about being injured from time to time, because both of these guys miss time throughout the season. They don't necessarily need a stud wide receiver, just a reliable one who Watson can look for and say, oh, yeah, this guy is always going to be open on third down. Like, this is my whoopee. He needs a blankie. As far as a wide receiver, he does. Look, every quarterback needs a whoopee on third down, and unfortunately, Deshaun doesn't have one. Between his legs, the tight end leaking out late, and sometimes the miracle toss to whoever's lined up at wide receiver downfield, inexplicably uncovered. He needs something reliable in that receiving room, and what they try to do this year at receiver, I get it. By having a lot of good wide receivers, you can't just identify, well, we take this guy away and the rest of them suffer. I mean, it worked for a little bit, but it's not something you want to consistently rely on. And
on top of that, we learned that Will Fuller remained strong and healthy through the season because he was using performance-enhancing drugs.
Look at his strength and conditioning coach.
And I'm sure Kiki Kuti was following the same regimen, just got lucky and didn't get caught. I mean, that's an allegation. See, now that's uncouth of me. I should not say that. But
yeah, you really shouldn't say that.
Let's face it. Kiki Kuti is just as brittle as Will Fuller is, and was also a little bit more on the more healthy side this season. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, all the receivers were relatively healthy this season. I mean, and then they lost Kenny Stills. So, I mean, that was the thing that happened. So,
yeah, well, they let Kenny Stills go. Didn't he sign with Buffalo last week?
Signed with Buffalo yesterday.
Britt. Was that Kenny Britt or Kenny Stills? I think it's Kenny Britt.
No, it was Stills.
Is it Stills?
Signed with Buffalo, Stills signed with Buffalo yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, to me, we'll see what.
I think they need more on defense.
We'll see if there is they definitely need more on defense. I can't argue that. That is inarguable. I think obviously we'll see if there's a culture change with whomever they bring in as their coach and GM. You like to joke about Jack Easterby. I don't think he's still going to be there. If he is, then there clearly won't be a culture change, or there will be a culture change, and that will be guys like J.J. Watt will no longer be on the team. I have a feeling J.J. Watt has a lot of problems with what's going on in the front office, and that's why that's probably another big reason why we won't see J.J. Watt in a Houston Texans uniform again. But we'll see. We'll see. A new GM, a new coach could change a lot of things, could make that arrow move a little bit more towards the upswing than on the downswing. You do have Deshaun Watson. Let's see who ends up, going in there, and let's see what they can do and how they can change things in Houston.
Yeah, and look, Romeo Crennel, to his credit, did what he could do with this team for the latter half of the season. Being that he's one of your former Patriot folk, do you think he gets a coordinator job next year?
Romeo Crennel's retired like twice already, and come out of retirement twice already. I think Romeo Crennel needs to hang it up. Like at some point, you just kind of have to say, "All right, it's time. I'm tired. I don't have it in me for a 17-week season plus off season. Like, it's time to say goodbye." And I think Romeo Crennel is at that point. I don't think Romeo Crennel wanted to be the interim head coach. It was just sort of a necessity that he had to be, because he wasn't a coordinator. He was a special consultant, I think, to the team this season.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's probably time for Romeo to call it quits. And again, I think this would be the spot for Eric Bieniemy. Again, it depends on who the general manager is to go along with him. But I do think that this is probably the best fit for him. Just like when we were talking about Jacksonville earlier, to me, if they hire Urban Meyer, that's what not getting better looks like. That's an arrow swinging right. That's an arrow swinging right to the downside. I think they hired Joe Brady, though, who they did ask permission to talk to. I think Joe Brady is the best fit in Jacksonville to go along with Trevor Lawrence. And, he's got that college mindset. He knows how that college offense works. He can make it work in the NFL. And I think he'd obviously make it work really well with the Trevor Lawrence at quarterback for him. And those wide receivers that they have in Jacksonville, that's the thing. Jacksonville actually has a lot of good pieces on the offensive side already. It's not going to take much. I think the Jacksonville spot is still a good spot. I know that the owner or the son of the owner said he's going to have final say over personnel. To play devil's advocate about that, because a lot of people are making comparisons to the Dallas situation, but to play devil's advocate on that, the Crafts technically have final say over the roster as well in New England, but they went through a quarterback situation with Brady and Bledsoe where they learned to trust their football people. And so to play devil's advocate, I'm just going to say, like, the Jaguars ended up jettisoning all of their stars from a team that had a ton of potential and got to the point that they're at now by doing that. So maybe it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, my football guys say that this is best for my team, but I need this star still involved with my team, and we're going to make this work somehow. And if that's getting rid of this coach, then that's what we're going to do, and not getting rid of the talent that we have on the football field. So I think I will give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt for now until we see that they hire Urban Meyer, and then I'll be like, oh, you made a mistake. All right.
Yeah.
That is it for the sound off. It's a little mega-sized edition of the sound off today. But
just a little bit.
But
they can skip my part though.
They could if they want to skip Eagles today, which is a lot of the first half of this particular podcast. I think it was.
If they really want to know, look, if they really want to know, they'll listen.
I think it was really insightful, and we did talk about how some of the things that are going on with the Eagles relate to other teams as well. So I do think that it was a valuable edition of the NFL Sound Off. We'll continue the NFL Sound Off all through the playoffs. That week off between the Super Bowl and between the championship games and the Super Bowl, we may not be here. We might have something else like our prop pick preview episode will replace the sound off, but we'll still be here.
Maybe coaching changes by then.
It could be. We'll be here definitely twice a week, all through the Super Bowl, and then after the Super Bowl, we usually take a little bit of a hiatus. I don't know how much of a hiatus we'll actually take this year, but we'll see. Lots of good things coming up. The NFL offseason now in full swing. A lot of coaches being interviewed, a lot of GMs being interviewed. We'll be talking about all of that. Our Thursday previews will continue to come at you every Thursday afternoon. We'll start with the playoff game previews, and then we'll move on to off-season news in the second half of that particular show. Again, we have timestamps involved in that particular podcast. I know it's a long one. I know you look at it and you go, oh, God, that's so long. But if you really look at it in parts, it's really not that long. I mean, I don't expect you to listen to it all the way through. I mean, if you do, great. That's fantastic. If you don't, that's why we got the timestamps in there. Help you to jump from segment to segment to segment. So please use those timestamps. You can find our podcast everywhere. Great podcasts are heard: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora. You name it, we're there. You can listen to the Next Fan Up show, and you can email us nextfanup@gmail.com to send us your thoughts on your particular team. If we're not talking about your team, there's probably a reason why. If you want us to talk about your team, send us a note.
Email.
We'll talk about your team. Nextfanup@gmail.com, at NFU Podcast on Twitter, Facebook.com/NFU Podcast. It's the other way to get in touch with us. Hope you enjoyed this edition of the Sound Off. We will talk to you again on Thursday. Here's Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together. And through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the charter. And that principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.